But let's move to Domaine Louis Jadot, Chambertin Clos de Beze, Grand Cru from Givry-Chambertin. One of the oldest houses and negociant producers kind of all in one. Louis Jadot is about 150 years old, right? Or 152, I think. They just celebrated their 152nd birthday.
It's on the Puy Fusé bottle that I have.
Yeah.
It says 150.
Yeah, right.
2008 vintage.
Yeah, 2008 or 2009 vintage. So a very old house. And currently, and for the last, I think, 35 or so years, Jacques Lardier has been their winemaker and one of the more talented winemakers, I think, on the planet. Really talented guy. They've got a spectacular team at Jadot. They've got another guy named, what's his last name? It's Olivier Masmondet, right? Something like that, I believe. But he was...
I believe so, yes.
I believe so. I hope I didn't totally butcher that, Olivier. But he was named Muller Sommelier of France for, I think, I want to say the 2006 competition. But guy's brilliant. Lots of fun, and the wines have always been extraordinary, especially the Grand Crus. And take it away, June. I'm going to smell this bad boy.
Okay. Oh, this is a 2004 vintage, and I was just talking to Chris about this earlier, but for me, 2004s can be rather green. They have this kind of green tobacco. I've heard people call them cornichons, which is kind of like my kryptonite because I actually hate pickles, so I'm going to go with green tobacco. But there are some 04s that I've been tasting recently that are still really tight and lean and green. And I don't really know if they're going to come around, but in this case, for me, Givry is probably the best village for 04s because you still have that sumptuous fruit, the strength, the structure, and then that kind of smoked tobacco like greenness is actually just another tertiary flavor that's giving it more complexity. Clos de Beze, I mean, what are you gonna do? It's Clos de Beze. It's if you're talking about Grand Crus and Givry-Chambertin, I mean, that's the one. It's Chambertin, Le Chambertin, and Clos de Beze are kind of, they're your icons, they're your pinnacles, they're the apex. Those are the ones that you go to.
It's kind of what you think of. I think what the first initial thought is when you think of Grand Cru Burgundy, or when you think of Burgundy, when you're first getting into it, Givry-Chambertin has to come to mind as one of the communes that really paints the picture of what power and finesse and what Pinot Noir are really capable of doing. And really, when we're talking about Burgundy, for any beginners out there, it is a difficult region to learn. But we're really the fun part, and I think the joy that you can take is really, and realistically, we're talking about two grape varieties for red Pinot Noir, for white Chardonnay. You can get a little deeper and go a little geekier if you want to, but really and truly, we're talking about red and white Burgundy, Pinot Noir, Chardonnay. So going forward, knowing that is kind of a beautiful thing, and it is difficult to learn some of these, especially when there's 8 or 9 Grand Crus of Givry-Chambertin. But basically, the way that I always like to look at it is almost like a bullseye, like playing darts, like kind of a dartboard. Village level is kind of out here. Premier Cru is kind of that area right around your high point marks, and then the bullseye is your Grand Cru, and that's the best example of fruit and place and power and finesse that you can possibly find. And when you talk about Grand Cru, and one of the reasons why you really don't ever see on Premier Cru or Grand Cru bottles, and I may be rambling here, so feel free to stop me, June. But why you don't ever see grape varieties on your Premier Cru and Grand Cru, because they're meant to taste like a place, and the French notion of terroir, I don't think is any more clear than it is in Burgundy, France, than anywhere else, maybe on the planet when we're talking about a specific grape variety, with again, exception of maybe Germany. A very distinct place, and also kind of a classic example of vintage characteristics. From vintage to vintage, very varied. So to maybe get 10 of these vintages of these same bottles lined up is almost impossible, I think.
Yeah.
Burgundy's a little bit different than Bordeaux, where Bordeaux maybe have 150, 160 chateaux that you would taste through. To find Burgundy, to get a really good grasp about it, you got to try a bunch of different Burgundies, a bunch of different producers, and you may not always get the same vintages or get a complete vertical, because people make a lot of quality wine, but very little of each specific. So if we've got Clos de Beze and then La Chambertin, there's not a great deal of it. I think they own 2.6 hectare of Chambertin Clos de Beze, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But very, very small production on each individual wine. But let's get back to the wine as opposed to history and a land lesson.
Oh, because some Clos de Beze producers, you're allowed to produce it as Chambertin.
As Chambertin.
So some people don't choose to really recognize that Clement.
Right.
But in this case, I mean, God, it tastes amazing.
It's so beautiful.
Now.
And this is kind of a joyous occasion with the 04 too, because as we talked about some of those green notes or some of those notes, actually the 2004 here, the example, like again, following such a very hot vintage in 2003, which is kind of an atypically strange, you can call it global warming or climate change or what have you, but following such a strange vintage, I think the fruit had a little bit of a kind of a shock to the system. But this wine in particular is really showing beautifully.
You can feel it like really just kind of coming together into itself. The fruit with the oak, with the acidity, with that minerality is just kind of collapsing together.
Right.
And I mean, in a really beautiful way.
There's this
really
there's this, it's hard to explain it, there's this beautiful sweetness of red fruit that's kind of coming off, this very beautiful perfume.
It's like a maraschino cherry.
Right, and where if this is a dude, I think that this would be kind of the elegant lady. I really do, walking up and down the street in nice high heels and maybe
I mean, if she's an elegant lady, she's like 6'3" though.
Yeah, she's got to be 6'3".
Yeah, she's looks Scandinavian. I don't know. It's pretty big. I won't lie. It's
big, but I meant more on the perfume
yes,
component of it. Very pretty. But then you put it in the palate, and there's not a whole lot of sweetness to it at all. It's very well put together.
The tannins are softer and more refined here. I mean, but they're still powerful.
6'3". She can dunk.
I mean, she's a man. The Pommard is, just kind of that taste memory. The tannins were a little bit more separated and coarser, whereas these are pumicey, but there's more of them, and they're more compact, and just they're more focused on the palate, and it's more powerful. So we're talking about a different food pairing here.
Totally.
Something you could go richer here. You can go with a slightly more robust components around your protein.
Sure. You can take your squab and turn it up to 11 by putting some foie gras in it.
Oh, there you go.
Yes. Things like that. I think, and this is one of the things that with food pairings of any kind, I feel that Burgundy, especially in specific communes or going through wherever you're going, can be perfect food pairings. And you don't always need to spend Grand Cru bucks to get great Burgundy. It's a difficult process to start, but once you start falling in love with Burgundy, that commune pretty much does the rest of the work for you, as long as you continue to stay interested and stay thirsty, I guess.
It's my perfect thing to really just kind of offer up to a couple, especially like someone does fish,
someone's doing beef or something else savory. Sure.
This is the first thing that I offer. It's so versatile, and it just tastes so damn good that how are you not gonna like it?
One of my sous chefs came up with a dish that every time I taste a powerful yet beautiful Burgundy, I always think about it. It's a scallop and pork belly with a carrot emulsion and topped off with gingered carrot and pork belly jus. I'm always like, you know what, beef, fish, savory, I love it. That would be something that I think that the Chambertin Clos de Beze would be beautiful with. Also, something along the lines of you can kind of neutralize a really gamey meat as well with something like this. Or this is again another kind of a strong, I would say that a little bit of a stronger and heavier charcuterie board, but you could still have fun with that as a tasting.
Also, like this vintage, I think lends well to things like with mustards or vinegars in the sauce, because it really levels out just the components of the vintage that we've been talking about.